Hey there, everyone. All right, well, it's a lot of activity here today, but that's what the beginning of autumn is about. And it's really a time for gathering our energy and storing our energy and getting ready for the next 6 months of a little bit more, uh, well, more darkness. The light is kind of retreating a little bit, but that just means more within time and more time connecting with others and sharing and eating more warming foods as we move into autumn. So we got a few minutes here together to talk about health and well-being, and it really starts. One of my mottos. I have a clinic in San Rafael called Preventive Medical Center, and one of our mottos is our health starts. Your health starts with you, and so we're responsible for so much of our own health. And when I look at you know I became a doctor. I've been in practice for 40 plus years. I started early. I wasn't a Doogie Howser, but I kind of skipped through college a little bit and jumped into medical school. And I moved to California from Michigan in '72 to intern and work in the hospital. And then after that, I said, now I need to learn about health and healing. So that was my journey all through the '70s to study about nutrition and detox and cleansing and herbs and natural medicine and Chinese medicine. And it was, thank you, dear. And as I did that, I was still kind of doing a practice, and I realized that the things I was studying about natural healing were really important. And what I was learning about in terms of five elements and the cycles of nature was really important. I said, this should be part of medicine. And since my folks were wondering what I was doing because I wasn't, they helped me get through medical school. And then I was actually a country doctor in Bolinas after, for my own healing. And because Bolinas is on the coast and it's a Miwok healing ground. So I went through my own healing and I said, all this stuff should be part of medicine. So during the late '70s, I wrote Staying Healthy with the Seasons, and it came out in 1981. And it's still in print like 36 years from when it first came out. And it's some people's, really beginning health book and favorite health book. And it really incorporated Western medicine and understanding the body and the physiology, and Eastern medicine and understanding the energies of the body, and nutrition and herbs, and how to apply these things as we adapt and change, after every season. And I still live this way. I watch the moon cycle. I watch the seasonal cycles. And many people who have used my book, read it as they get into autumn. So as we move into autumn, it's a time to store energy and to eat a little more warming foods, especially as it gets colder. In another month, we're going to have a shift to, we're going to change time. So we're going to have a little more time in the morning, but it's going to be dark at 5:30. That's a big shift for people's consciousness. At the same time, the weather gets colder and damper, and we have to protect ourselves. The idea of seasonal health is nature provides the foods that help balance us during that season. So in the hot summer, we have more melons and fresh watery fruits and all that. As we move into the autumn and winter, it's foods that require more heat to support us. And so in the same way as our body cycles and our rest and our sleep, one of the inherent conflicts of why we see so many people get sick over November and December and January and February is because it's holiday time. And we all have more opportunity and exposure to sugar and alcohol and rich foods and gravies and all that. And there's a tendency of overindulgence. And at the same time, we need to simplify. We need to discriminate more and not do so much of those items. Or if we do them, we need to kind of balance it off every day. So that's really the key. And one of the things I talk about in my new medicine book, and that stands for integrating natural, Eastern, and Western medicines, which I think is the future of healthcare. And what I think will really change healthcare and the health is that people start taking more responsibility for their health and the way they live in 5 key areas. And I call it on my website the 5 keys to staying healthy: nutrition, which is eating a good balanced diet and getting all the nutrients; exercise and staying fit; getting good sleep, which probably 50% of you, or more than 50% of America, does not sleep well; learning to manage stress; and keeping a healthy attitude, a positive attitude. Now, when I did my first juice cleanse in 1976, I started to, my allergies of 20 years got better. My weight dropped. I started to feel a very high vitality and energy. And I looked at myself and I said, this is how I want to feel. And my whole attitude changed to, I'm going to love this body that I have. And if I do that, I got to start taking care of it. I got to feed it better. I got to learn to deal with stress. I have to get good sleep and all that. So to me, that's really a beginning step. But the better way to, a good way to understand the body is to look at really what causes disease. And I have a clinic that I do integrative family medicine. I'm probably the only doc in the Bay Area that does that and takes insurance and Medicare. And I really evaluate people's health, and I help them make the steps to improving health. I have this, one of my favorite visuals is in my new book. It's called The Health Illness Continuum. And up one side, let's say on this side, is kind of a black, it's like the yin yang. It's a black part of the circle. Symptoms, diseases, degeneration, chronic illness, up to death on top. On the other side is what I call health improvement. We start to have better energy and vitality, creativity. We start to really connect more with life and ourselves, and we start to serve the world in a different way. And that kind of reaches up at the top to enlightenment. We gather, so death and enlightenment, which is kind of a Hindu concept, merge together. Most people and most doctors in our current culture work to just manage disease and symptoms by treating the symptoms. Okay, at my clinic and in my world, I'm always trying to understand what is the cause. And I have a chart. I have a few handouts back there as well, but I have a chart in my book called The Causes of Disease. In the center of that chart is the cell, our cells. The way our cells get out of balance is either from deficiency of the nutrients that we need, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, fatty acids, and the phytonutrients from our foods. So when we don't have all those nutrients coming in, which means you have to eat healthy, good quality foods, ideally, as a primary diet. And the other side is toxicity. The chemicals and metals that get into our air, food, and water that we put on our body, that we do on our hair, and those toxins can interfere and cause stress on our cells and damage to our cells. So if we want to heal many of the problems that people experience, if we did this nationally with millions of people, and you say, I'm going to eat wholesome food now, I'm going to get rid of all my junk and chemicals that I eat, and I'm going to, see how I do. So one of the things I do in my clinic is I do, 3-week or 10-day fasts. I do 3-week detox programs where people just take a break from their caffeine, sugar, alcohol, wheat, dairy, etc. It's an elimination diet. And this is kind of, to me, the first step in good, healthy medical care, which is to say, all right, let me see. One of my mottos and one of my philosophies in medicine is how we look and feel is primarily a result of how we live. If we want to feel different, we want to feel better, we need to look at every component. So I have this other slogan on my website is, take your life apart and put it back together. Look at everything that you do and see, is that contributing to a positive outcome or a negative outcome? And if you get and you clean that up a little bit, you say, wow, this feels better. My headaches are better. I don't have allergies. My digestion feels better. This is, to me, a common sense approach to medicine and healthcare. So, and then you get into the more specifics, but almost every one of you and and myself included, benefits from taking a little break. So even though I really work to not develop a daily habit to anything, and I have in my detox diet book I have back there this acronym called SNACC, SNACC. It stands for sugar, nicotine, alcohol, caffeine, chemicals. Now, when I talk around the country, most people, more than 90% of people, raise their hand and say, "I." They have a daily habit to at least one of those things. So, and that's often the first thing I look at with people is to take a break from those things. So that, to me, that's a beginning. And the other aspect of the causes of disease is you have on the outer circle allergies, asthma, high blood pressure, diabetes. Most people and most doctors approach it from the outside in, but we heal the body from inside out. We heal the skin from within. We really can make a difference there. So those are some basic concepts about wellness and our own well-being. So, um, anybody have a topic they want me to talk about, or yeah? So, question is, what do I recommend for an anti-cancer diet? Well, I've spoken about cancer since one of my first talks I did was in 1979 at the College of Marin on prevention of cancer, and I started that by saying the only sensible approach to cancer is prevention. So, of course, we know certain habits. Nicotine is probably the number one. For people who smoke, their risk is much higher, but chemical exposure uh, isn't also an issue. In terms of diet, I think I still come back to the cell. Cells get damaged from certain kinds of toxins, hydrocarbon chemicals and all that. So to me, the best way to prevent cancer is a wholesome, nutrient-rich diet and watching your stress and avoiding nicotine and chemicals. In terms of research on whether a grain-based diet or a meat-based diet, we do know that a heavy amount of meat and also charbroiled meats and things like that can increase the risk of colon cancer. So and certain types of diets can increase the risk of breast cancer. Some of this has genetic capability. So I can say I mean, there is a fair amount of consideration for the high use of grains, especially processed grains that people eat, and dementia. The book "The Grain Brain" by David Perlmutter, kind of poured into a lot of research on that. So I can't really say that, a vegetarian diet. I mean, we do know that more vegetarian diets have a lower risk of cancer. They may have other issues there too, and it's harder to kind of keep everything going. So, that's basically what I'd say. I don't know if we can say the grains one way or the other, but I think it's more the overall diet. Mhm. What do I consider warming foods? Well, firstly, all right, so the best way to think of it, I wrote this in Staying Healthy with the Seasons 35 years ago. Food is your body's fuel, okay? So you want foods that warm your body, and that's cooked foods, that's richer foods with more, protein and oils. So nuts and seeds will provide you more oil. So as we move into this time of the year, we can eat more nuts and seeds and all that, and more cooked food. If you go to a traditional Chinese medicine person, they're always worried about the body getting too cold and doesn't function well. So they're always encouraging people to eat a more warming diet. But really, it depends on your own nature. If you're someone who's trim and you get cold easily, you need warming foods. Remember, food is your fuel. So in the wintertime, you need more heat-producing foods. So I do more ginger and cayenne. I mean, I do on cayenne every day. I don't have, I have Himalayan salt and cayenne pepper. Those are my two shakers, and I drink salsa also. So, um, so I think basically, and if you're someone who's more warm type like I am, I can do salads. I'm also AB if you follow blood type diets and things like that. I can do more vegetarian. I can eat, fruit during the winter and be fine with it. Most people can't, if they get cold more easily. So a guy like you who's relatively trim and may get cold easily, you want more warming foods. And also, a lot of times you have to check out your thyroid because thyroid controls your temperature. A lot of people are hypothyroid or they have autoimmune thyroid issues. So you got to kind of keep going. It's a good idea to get a checkup. How many of you feel like you're really pretty healthy? Yeah, how many could be healthier? Three things you could do. Now that's what I want you to think about. Three things that you can do when you go home that you can to improve your health, basically. Maybe that's more exercise. Maybe, a lot of people don't exercise. Did a talk last night in Santa Rosa, and that was kind of one of the weaker things. People were pretty conscious about diet. They just weren't getting out and doing it. So I said, you know what the best exercise is? The one that you'll do. So if the same with the diet, same with all that. And to me, everything in medicine, everything I do with people is an experiment. It's an experience because people need to see how does this make me feel, whether it's a diet change or it's a new drug or it's a supplement. But my practice, I'm a family doctor. Most all my patients are on maybe a prescription or two, some not, but some uh, on supplements, on certain foods. That we realize that no two people that I see are on the same program. A lot of people are on the same medicine, but they're not on the same whole program of everything that feeds them. There's a whole new field called, um, based on genetics, and it's the yeah, my mind's blanking. What's the term for epigenetics? Right. Okay. So I have a whole section on there, and it's epigenetics means that the way you live affects whether certain genetic potentials are expressed or not. And if you get deficient in certain nutrients, certain things can happen. And so we can protect ourselves a lot. And we may have certain genetic patterns in our body, but if we live healthfully, we don't really experience those. So those are some basic ideas. And it maybe I don't know what time it is, but yeah. Coffee? Yeah. Coffee. Well, coffee's got some good stuff. Alcohol has some good stuff. Everything, that I've been saying for a long time, everything's a potential benefit. Everything's a poison. So in my detox diet book, I have a whole chapter on sugar, caffeine, alcohol, nicotine, chemicals. They all have certain benefits. People like coffee because it stimulates them. I've never had a cup of coffee in my life. I've tasted it a few times. Energy, people energy, and it feeds their brain, but there's a negative effect. The big study just over in Europe now recently came out that said people who drank a couple cups of coffee a day lived longer. I don't know what else they compared. You have to look at the details of that. Coffee is probably even more than sugar now the number one substance that people depend on daily. The message that I have is if can you do something and not do it? What happens when you stop doing it? Do you crash and burn? I have a new digital educational product coming out called Regain Your Natural Energy. And it basically encourages people to take a week off of sugar, caffeine, and alcohol just to see how you are. Do you go through withdrawal? See, most people who drink a couple cups of coffee a day, you have them stop for a day, they crash and burn, they have a terrible headache. So there's withdrawal effects. But there is certain benefit. I mean, one of the things I say is employers love when their employees drink coffee. That's why they give them free coffee, and then because they get things done faster, they're sharper, they talk faster, they get on the phone. But I think that we have the potential for that consistent general energy without stimulation. We use our own natural adrenal energy. We own you know, our own functioning, and that's really what I want to bring people back to: their own natural energy levels based on nutrients. Like I replace coffee for a lot of people with a really good nutrient-rich smoothie with green powders and red powders and protein in it. That's my approach.